Caitlin.
I'm Danielle.
And we are Our Time of the Month.
Normally we film a lot of beauty, lifestyle, women's health videos, but today we are honing in on one of our favorite hobbies, which is reading.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about some of the recent books that we've completed.
Both of us make an intention at the beginning of the year to read a certain amount of books.
Yes.
I have failed every year in the past. This year, I think I'm on track. We both are members
Library?
of our local public library, which I highly encourage. Yes. I was always a book buyer. I love buying books. I love going to the bookstore. I love having the book, but I never reread a book.
I never reread a book. However, there are a couple of authors who I will procure because I like to have the entire series or the collection of books. Yeah. But I've always been a really big library user and supporter.
The library was my favorite place as a kid, but I dropped off in my adulthood. I stopped going.
And as an archivist, I feel like you should support your local library because they are underfunded and undervalued.
The library is a safe space for people without housing, without access to computers.
Yes.
Like, everyone should be a patron. That's what it is. It's a patron of the library because you being part of it, and even your fines that you may pay, end up funding resources for people that can't afford.
Yeah.
Highly recommend it.
So our local library is the Enoch Pratt. It's the Baltimore Library. Mm-hmm. They have many locations, which is so wonderful. And even though Caitlin and I can't physically go into the library now to request books, we can make our requests and holds online and then do sidewalk pickup, which is really exciting.
I have zero complaints about sidewalk pickup.
I'm in it forever.
I wish that they would offer it full time, although I understand why they don't. As always, we're gonna have a little bevies.
We are gonna have a little bev and
a bevragino.
You just shot me off my chair.
Have you seen that on TikTok?
So we're gonna have a bevragino.
We have a bevragino because it's lovely weather and we're together.
Ah, joy.
A bevragino. I don't know what that means.
It's a beverage.
I know.
But fancy.
Fancy.
We are cultured people.
Y'all coming over for a bevragino?
Totally.
Okay.
We are supporting a local brewery, and it's Flying Dog, and we're trying Tropical Truth. It's an Imperial IPA, which is an India Pale Ale, if you didn't know. And it's brewed with mango and passion fruit puree, which are two of my favorite flavors.
Yeah,
let me just shake this up.
Those are key words for us. I feel like if any description has those in it, we're like, yes, we're down.
I will say Flying Dog always has really eccentric packaging.
I don't love their packaging. It's not my style.
It's Picasso-esque, I will say.
I would agree.
The reason I bought it...
Wait, you missed the good part.
What?
What's the ABV, honey?
That's what I said. That's what I'm getting to.
Oh, sorry.
The reason I bought it is because it's 8.7% ABV.
That's an 8.7, which I would say is very similar to our score on the attractiveness scale. An 8.7!
I will take an 8.7.
So would I.
Are you freaking kidding? That's that's almost an A.
We've never done this before, split a beer, because it's such a high alcohol volume.
But we've already...
No. Yeah, Danielle's
got a bottle of wine.
Danielle's Mike and I specifically choose beers based on, it's like a balance of flavors that we'll like types of beer, but then also you gotta cross compare with the ABV.
I had a sip of this yesterday because my husband did drink one, and it is the lightest, smoothest, non-bitey IPA with the highest ABV percentage I've ever had.
I think I'm gonna really like it.
I'm gonna go ahead and put it out there. You ready? Cheers. You're gonna love it.
I do love it.
How was that an IPA?
Wow, 2 wins today for drinks. So the first one I have is the book Never Have I Ever by Joshua Jackson.
Oh.
Not at all related, I don't think, to the Joshua Jackson from Dawson's Creek.
This sounds like a mystery.
So, it is. In this game, even winning can be deadly.
I do love book taglines.
Is the tagline, which I think is really funny. I liked this.
Out of 5 stars, how many are we giving?
I mean, I would say it's like a 3.67. So it's not quite 4.
Out of 5?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's okay. Like, I liked it. I definitely it was definitely a page turner. I was on vacation when I was reading it, which I think is helpful because I did just literally get to read it all the way through. And I will say, like, I was supposed to leave at a certain time, but I had 40 pages left of this book, and I actually stayed specifically to finish it. Like, I was like, no, I have to finish it before I leave. But there was a detail at the end that really turned me off. The author threw in this twist that I just didn't think was necessary, and it involved, like, child abuse.
Trigger warning.
Yeah, I didn't think, like, the rest of the book, it didn't have any of that in it, and then it sort of, like, threw it in at the end, and it just cheapened it to me, because I was like, that was so off-putting and such a shock. I didn't think it was necessary. I think it could have ended in a better way. But it was interesting. It did keep you guessing the whole time. You're trying to figure out sort of like how this person came to be in the lives of the other characters, and like how the main character is going to get out of a predicament.
Would you say it's a heart-pounding tale of cat and mouse? That's how someone reviewed it on the back.
No, I would not call it heart-pounding.
So what's it about?
So it's about this woman who lives in sort of like they imply that it's like a wealthy sort of sleepy neighborhood, and there is a book club, and this woman who is staying in, I guess, like an Airbnb house in the neighborhood, so like everybody already judges everybody that comes. She shows up to one of these parties and decides to start playing Never Have I Ever, except it's not the traditional like put your finger down. It's everyone has to admit like a terrible thing they've done, and you have to continue to tell worse and worse things. But turns out the reason this woman is playing this game is actually so that she can gather information from these people and blackmail them.
Wow, she sounds like a bitch.
Yes, but then you find out that there's more tying her to this town and to these people than you thought in the beginning, and it's not random and like all this different stuff. And the main character, who I can't remember her name, but Rue and Amy. Her name's gotta be Amy. She starts to try and figure out like why this woman is here and why she's blackmailing them, and how she even found out about it, and like all this different stuff. So it is interesting that way, but I think the ending just kind of really fucking blew it for me.
I will say I hate when books do that. When you're like 75 or 80% of the way through and you're like, this is great, I can't wait to see how it ends, and then the ending is such a disappointment.
Yeah, and it
tarnishes it.
It wasn't even just like it was a lame ending, which I've read plenty of books where you're like, oh, okay, I thought. But this was like, she tried to throw in like a grand finale kind of thing, like a big twist where you're like,
more drama.
And instead I was just like, oh, this actually, because now I look back at the behavior of these characters and I'm like, oh, ew, like this whole time, it just makes me uncomfortable. I would still say like it's worth a read, but go in it knowing that something's gonna happen.
You won't be happy at the ending.
Yeah.
We're going in chronological order. I'm going to say the last book that I read that I'm including was Open Book by Jessica Simpson, which I've lent to Caitlin.
Yep.
And I will say I had very low expectations because as a person, she never really interested me. A lot of pop stars would not interest me, I would say. Like any pop singer could come out with a book and I would be like passing it happily on the shelves.
Yeah, and I will say like of all the pop like of that era, so like Christina, Jessica, Brittany.
Right.
Jessica is not the one who I was like a big fan of.
Like I didn't think she would have like this super juicy story because she was always portrayed to be such a dummy or a dumb blonde.
But also she was like the squeaky clean Christian, whereas Christina was dirty.
Right.
And Brittany
well, not that innocent.
She was a little bit more wholesome, but she was not a girl, not yet a woman.
That's right. The book came out and I had started reading reviews of people who got advanced reading copies of the book, and they were like, if you want to read a celebrity novel or autobiography who really lays it all out there and doesn't sugarcoat anything, and she's naming names and giving you the dish on really hard things, this is the book for you. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to buy it. And so I forget what I was doing, but I needed a book to read while I was away and I didn't have anything with me. So I think I went to a Target and I bought Open Book by Jessica Simpson. And the first night that I read it, I couldn't put it down. I think I read half the book in one sitting, and then I finished it the next day. It was such a quick read because she was being so honest about everything in her life from her childhood to present times. So there is a trigger warning with the book because she does talk about being sexually abused by a childhood friend, which is really hard to read. I'm sure it's even harder to write about and to kind of unveil this massive secret to the world at one time. So I commended her for doing that because I think that it's such a sensitive topic, but it's so common and no one's really talking about it.
Well, I think the interesting thing is that it was a girl.
It was a girl, yeah. It was abused by a childhood friend, family friend, the daughter of a family friend.
And I think that is a harder topic to talk about because it's more confusing because although she definitely wasn't, like now when she looks back on it, she's not confused. But I'm sure like at the time, it's a girl. It's just friendly. Like you're sharing a bed because you're friends and like you're the same age and whatever.
And she talks about that confusion in the book, and then eventually her realization of this is abuse, this is not right, and how she told her parents, and they were not reacting. They weren't reacting the way that you would hope they would. And she talks about her dad's background and their financial status, and you learn about her life in Texas and her role within their church. And then she talks about trying out for the Mickey Mouse Club, which I didn't know ever happened. She was not selected. And then her meeting of Nick Lachey, and then that relationship. And it just, wow. Like, I was so blown away by all of it and her honesty, and I was so happy that she named names. I was really interested in her relationship with John Mayer. And then she talked about her current relationship. She's married to what I'm assuming is a very wonderful man. She seems very happy in the book and also like on social media. Yeah. And she talked about her abuse of alcohol. And I just appreciated her honesty and vulnerability, and it was funny because I could look back on that time of my life because we're near the same, well, no, she's 8 years older than me, I guess, but I can look back and see different portions of her life and the personalities that she portrayed. And then when she talks about like, oh, I was abusing this at the time, or I was with this really mentally abusive partner at the time. It's so crazy because you can piece together. And it just shows you how easy it is to judge someone and not really know the full story. So I appreciated her honesty. She's actually a really great writer. I don't know. I don't think she had a ghostwriter. I think I read that.
That was what I was gonna say. But I'm sure that there was someone
editors
editing and helping her. But
she can tell a story.
She is she was a surprisingly good writer.
Yeah.
I did not anticipate to actually enjoy the writing. Like I thought I was gonna enjoy the story, the gossip, all of that. And it was also introspective. Like she really is like looking in at herself, but then telling you like those thoughts and feelings. And I was so blown away by her willingness to bear everything.
To share.
Yeah.
Not an entirely happy story. Like sure, it has a happy ending now, but she did go through a lot of stuff and a lot of trauma, and to see her persevere and take ownership, but also rat people out for how shitty they are. I really appreciated that.
I think for me, and I haven't finished it. I read a lot of it and then I set it down. But I think for me, the part that I really was like, damn, was when she's talking about how she hit rock bottom that Halloween. And she admits
the Willie Nelson Halloween.
Yes. And she says, she's like, I have no idea who got my kids ready. I have no idea. And she says, she was like, I took an Instagram photo so that everyone thought I showed up. And I did not. That level of honesty where it's literally like, I fucked up. And then also admitting that you're trying to cover your fuck up, I guess. Like, it's one thing to be like, yeah, I did a bad thing. But then to also be like, I tried to pretend like I didn't.
Like I'm perfect.
I just think that type of admission is so huge because I think so few people do it. Because I think we're all putting ourselves out on social media and on the internet.
You want to be the best you
to portray a certain version, but for her to admit both the bad behavior and then also the attempt to portray good behavior was really huge.
What was the word that she coined for her mom's sippy cup?
Oh, well, it had like glitter cup.
Glitter cup. It was the glitter cup. So she talked about her like reliance on alcohol. And she was like, I would wake up and I would need a glitter cup, which is what my kids knew as like this cute glittery cup that I always had with me, but in reality it was filled with alcohol, like vodka and something else.
Yeah.
She even admitted to going to a school function with her glitter cup, and I was like, good for you for admitting how fucked up this is.
Yeah.
And also for getting help, the help that you needed. And she does seem genuinely happy now. I hope that's the case. When I look at her, it's as if she hasn't aged. She just turned 40. Highly recommend. I gave it 5 stars because I just felt like for a celebrity autobiography, it was great. It was juicy, it was informative, it was everything I wanted.
Next is Give Me Your Hand.
What is that?
By Megan Abbott.
That is something on
I
fire?
believe that's a Carnation on fire. So this is about a woman who has worked her entire life to be in a very competitive lab. So she's a scientist.
Okay.
And she also at the same time met a girl. Well, there was a girl that she met in high school, I think, who really like lit the fire in her to become like this very successful scientist. The girl tells her a deep dark secret.
Well, this tagline says you don't have a self until you have a secret.
Yes. So this girl tells the other girl a secret.
Okay.
That is huge, like huge. And she has to carry it with her, and it sort of fucks her up, but they graduate high school, they don't see each other, it doesn't matter. She holds it with her and she still feels a lot of guilt about it and whatever, but then the woman comes back because they both are very high achieving scientist lab people.
Got it.
And researchers, I guess, is really the word. And so she reappears and it sets off this whole, it's like the catalyst for all this shit in her life. And it ends up, it is kind of, I mean, it's a little crazy. It's a little far-fetched in what happens, but it still was very good. And it was kind of dark and gritty.
It sounds like a 4.25.
I was going to say like a 4.16.
Okay.
But more or less, it's about the same. I would say it's not a 5, but it's a solid 4.
I love a solid 4.
It's a solid 4. It was definitely a page turner.
Okay.
Like, I was interested in what was happening. There was tension.
Ooh, intense female friendship.
If you've ever seen the show Killing Eve, where there are these 2 women that are both like very smart, very high achieving, and they're adversaries, but at the same time they're also like tied to each other, that is how I would sort of describe this. Like, like this woman knows that the other woman is bad for her, and like only terrible things will happen if she involves herself with this woman, but they are forced together by other circumstances. And so she's trying to like figure out her life, and she was also kind of a little bit lost before anyway, and it like pushes, there's good and bad.
I think I kind of want to read this.
Yeah, no, I would recommend it. It was it was cool, crisp, and chilling.
It looks like the chapters go now and then, so if you don't like a book that jumps back and forth, you probably won't like it. Some people have a really big problem with that.
But I think I remember being a little disappointed in the ending.
Okay.
It just sort of ended. I didn't feel like there was resolution, but the rest of the book is worth the subpar ending to me.
Okay.
And maybe you won't find the ending subpar. Maybe it's just me, but I was just like, how did all of this crazy ass stuff happen? And then the ending is sort of just like, and she lives her life. And you're like, what? Huh? No.
Okay. The next one that I want to talk about is called Verity, and it's by Colleen Hoover, and it is definitely a thriller / mystery / page turner. You're going to want to continue to read this because I think I finished it in about a day and a half. I think I even took a half a day of work off because I was like, you know what, this book is just so good. I just want to finish it, and I don't want to be torn away from it. I think I even read it on my iPad, which also is like a whole nother thing because I don't really like to read on a screen like that. Yeah. It was so good that I was like, let's just keep going. Let's just keep going.
Oh.
It is a story about a woman whose mother has recently passed away. She is a writer, and she's really not been working on anything spectacular in recent months. She goes to a meeting that has been requested by her editor, and a gentleman shows up who basically presents her with this offer to be a ghostwriter for his wife, who's recently been in a pretty serious accident that prevents her from fulfilling her contract of finishing this series that she's been writing. And her name is Verity. It takes Lowen is the main character. It takes her a while to kind of agree to do this, but the money is so great. And she really doesn't have any other income right now. Her mom has just died, and she's like really focusing on paying medical bills for her. And so she agrees to be the ghostwriter for the end of the series. Verity is a very well-known author, Lowen not as much, but the husband has kind of convinced Lowen to move to their house. His name is Jeremy. Jeremy, Verity, they're the couple. They have children. They live in a house upstate somewhere. They have convinced Lowen to come there so that she can kind of go through Verity's office, read her manuscripts, read any of the notes and outlines that she may have written before her accident. And
oh, it's an accident.
It is an accident. But is it?
Oh.
What?
Plot twist.
And so Lowen arrives, and the house is kind of weird. And some of the kids have said kind of strange things to her. And she continues to stay and kind of research the work that Verity has done. When she sees Verity for the first time, it's very apparent that she can't speak, she can't communicate in any way, she's basically bedridden, she needs a caretaker 24/7. And little things start to happen that make Lowen think maybe Verity isn't as injured as you think she is. Maybe she's hiding something. It's really good.
Now I have to go and request it today because I want it.
It's good.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I heard a few people say that it like really fucks you up, but I didn't think it did.
Yeah.
I found it to be an actual page turner. I really loved it. I love a page turner. That's genuinely a page turner.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I know.
Danielle has the hiccups, so ignore her while I'm talking.
I'm gonna try to stifle them.
So this is about a girl named Elsa, unrelated to Frozen.
Like the princess?
No, not at all. Oh, good Lord. So this woman is it says she's headed for rock bottom, but she's like kind of already there. And she has had an affair with her married boss, and it has ended. And she has decided to like escape her life because nothing is working. And she goes back out to California, which is either where she's from or where she went to college. And she has a group of friends there. And she hasn't been there in a very long time. So she's coming back and sort of reintroducing herself to her friends in a more long-term way. Like she's visited, but not a lot and never for long. And so they only know her in that capacity. But now she's moved out there permanently. And she just continues to fucking spiral, I will say. So like I would say the common theme in like all of the books that I'm sharing today, and maybe all of the books I read, I just have never really noticed before, is that all of the main characters are women, and they all are like broken.
Oh yeah.
They all are struggling with identity and who they are and where they're going and how their actions really like inform who they are.
I'm so sorry. There's a way.
I just feel like
I might vomit.
You know when you're when you're drinking with friends and there's always like the one and you're like, oh man, that's gonna be bad.
I haven't had hiccups in a long time.
I know.
Katie Goose has a way to make them go away instantly, and I have to text her because.
Is it like something like pushing your tongue on the top of your mouth and the roof of your mouth?
It's something about plugging her nose and drinking out of a straw or something.
Oh, I've tried that. Yeah, there's one where you're supposed to like drink upside down on a straw holding your nose.
Yeah, how do I do that?
You just drink upside down holding your nose. Let's try it on camera.
Okay, wait.
You have a straw.
Yeah, that second straw. My hiccups are so terrible, and they violently jostle my stomach.
Okay.
So I feel like I might throw up.
Do you want me to just do it with you so we can... Yeah, I'll do it with you.
Oh! I'm so sorry. I hate this.
No, it's funny though. So apparently,
How much water?
until you stop, I guess. Nope. Okay, keep going.
Okay.
I think it has something to do with like disrupting the air bubbles. I don't know where I left off, but anyway, so she continues to spiral, which is a little hard for me to read. And reading someone else like continuously make poor decisions, even though they know they're bad and they know that they're not gonna I have done that before, and I've known I've done it, and I've judged myself for it, and like I have felt shame about it. And so watching someone else do it, I feel like I internalized some of that. Like she's sort of like gone around and like systematically like fucked up every like career because she had an affair with her boss, so she was so she was fired. So she has that. She has not a great relationship with her family members. She's like trying to reintroduce herself to this group of friends from like 10 years ago, and their lives have all changed, but she's coming back expecting everything to be the same. And then she like kind of drags some other people down with her at one point.
No.
It's a whole thing. And I think I remember the end of this one. Tish was like, how was it? And I was like, fuck that. But I kind of think that the end of it, there's no redemption. There's no upswing. It's like she just makes a resolute decision to sort of like
be better.
To like double down on her shit. She just sort of commits to like leaving everything behind and just being a bad person for a while.
What? Okay.
I don't even really remember, to be totally honest. That's how good of a book it was. I don't remember the ending.
Okay, so how many stars?
3. Let's go pi. Let's go 3.16.
I think pi is 3.14.
You're right. Listen, not a math major.
But
well, let's just say 3. It's a 3.
My hiccups went away.
Good.
They went away! Yeah!
It could even be like a 2.9.
It's that bad.
It's not.
Wait, what's it called? You didn't even tell us what it's called.
Oh my god, you're right. Catalina, a novel by Liska Jacobs.
The next book that I have to talk about is called Between the World and Me, and it's by Ta-Nehisi Coates, who is actually from Baltimore. He grew up in the Mondawmin area, which is a neighborhood not far from me at all. It is a book, but it is a letter to his adolescent son. He talks about race and started writing this book after the wrongful death of Eric Gardner. So it kind of starts out with that. And he talks about his entire childhood and adolescence and then adulthood, about growing up in Baltimore. And he talks about going to school, which was at Howard University, which is a very well-known black university.
Historically black.
Yeah.
College.
Historically black college.
University.
It is a university because it's Howard University. But he talks about his wonderful experience there and the amount of people that he met while he was there and the courses that he took. And he's a really beautiful and eloquent writer, but it's very eye-opening. And the fact that I kept reminding myself was he's writing this book to his son, who's like 13 years old at the time. And I can't imagine having to read some of this knowing that your dad kind of went through this, or the things that he saw. He talks about race in America and how he perceives it and how he thinks people perceive him and the experiences that he's had along the way. And it's so well written. He's written many books. He's a very esteemed author. I watched a couple of interviews with him actually on, I don't know, nighttime television, like what they're called, like The Tonight Show or this show. He's been on a couple of late night television interviews that I've watched, and I just found him really interesting. And when I picked up the book and I was reading it, I selected it because it was recommended on a list. I had no idea that he was from Baltimore. And that was,
you didn't?
No, I had no idea. That's how clueless I was. And it was a really welcome surprise. When he was talking about Mondawmin and the 7-Eleven, it was like I knew exactly where that was.
Yeah.
Because I used to shop up there at the Target and the grocery store and the Marshalls, and to read about his childhood and his life and the decisions and the experiences that helped to form his life and shape it to what he is now was just really interesting. It's a heavy read, but I highly recommend it. I, again, rated it 5 stars. I just think it's so important to kind of learn from that kind of perspective. He's written other books. I think the water dancer. I can't believe I got that right. The water dancer. It was on Oprah's book club list maybe a year or two ago, and one of the interviews I watched was like, it was like his final interview about this book, and he was like, I never want to talk about it again. I'm done talking about this book.
Oh, that's funny.
I thought it was so funny that he talked about it in that way, because I'm sure Oprah just really blew him up.
That's like what, yeah, that's like when musicians are like, I never want to play this song ever again.
Right.
And even it was Daveed Diggs in Hamilton. They asked the question to the cast, like, what's your favorite song to sing? And other people had answers, and he's like, honestly, I never want to sing them ever again. So this was on a list somewhere, so I don't really remember where I found it, but it is called Juliet Takes a Breath by Gabby Rivera. One of the things that sold me on it was obviously this beautiful cover, like very eye-catching, but also right along the top you can see here, Fucking Outstanding by Roxane Gay. So,
Roxane Gay.
So Roxane Gay, I have
a book in there
really enjoyed and followed for a long time, probably since early college. Like one of my first ever women's studies classes, she came up and I followed her since then. So I thought, like, if she says it's fucking outstanding, I believe her. I think it is technically YA. I think it's for young adults. It features a character who is young but not high school. I believe she's in college, and she has read a book by a white feminist author, and it has like lit a fire in her. She's also a baby lesbian. She knows she's a lesbian. She's been in a relationship with another woman, but she hasn't come out to her family, and she's struggling with that because she is Puerto Rican, I believe, and they're definitely traditional. But so anyway, so she reads this book by this author. I think it's called Raging Flower, like pussy, something about like pussy power.
It's called Raging Flower, Empowering Your Pussy by Empowering Your Mind.
Yes. So this woman is kind of like a radical feminist, however you want to define that. She writes an email or a letter, I can't remember, to the author of that book. And she says, like, hell yes, I love what you're doing, I love what you're saying, but I also don't see myself in it. She's like, as a Puerto Rican woman, like, I don't feel like I'm reflected in your writing. And she says all of that, and she was like, if you ever, I don't know, she somehow like opens the door that if she ever needs help or wants her perspective or whatever, and so she ends up being an intern for this woman. So
get out.
So she's grown up in the Bronx her entire life. She goes to Portland, Oregon to intern for her for college credit, and right before she leaves, she tells her whole family that she is a lesbian. And there are like multiple types of reactions from that, and there's the family dynamic portion of the storyline, but then she flies out to Portland, which is also a completely different setting from her growing up in the Bronx. So she feels like an outsider, and so she's dealing with that identity. She's dealing with the identity of being like an out lesbian and meeting other lesbian women, which she hasn't really had a ton of contact with. Her girlfriend is being distant. And so she's dealing with
her girlfriend back in the Bronx?
Her girlfriend is doing an internship in DC.
Oh, okay. So they're coast to coast.
Yeah, but so they're separated, and she's dealing with like something that all of us go through, which is, you know, your partner being separated from you and feeling neglected and like not having enough communication and all of that. But then also she meets all these people in Portland that are sort of informing her identity. But she also looks up to this author, this woman, as like the feminist voice. And the one problem I had was that in this letter that sort of precipitates her internship, she says, like, I feel like you're not including brown women in your feminism. Like, she writes it in the letter, but then the rest of the book, she looks at this woman as such a hero, like the pinnacle. So I feel like I don't know, that kind of doesn't make sense to me, because there is this very huge event where the feminist author makes it very obvious that she is not an intersectional feminist and she needs to work on it, but she's surrounded herself by other women that are, and they all sort of feed into this woman's Juliet's education about feminism and identity and being a lesbian and being Puerto Rican and all this different stuff, and it's heavy. I don't want to say it's heavy because it's not, but it deals with really substantial topics.
Things, yeah.
And she does it in a way that is entertaining and easy to read, and you feel for her and you can relate to this character, even though I am not a Puerto Rican lesbian from the Bronx. Like, there's parts of it that I definitely relate to, and I think this storyline, while written obviously well before Black Lives Matter, I think that the way that they deal with race and ethnicity and acknowledging shortcomings of others and your own shortcomings, that she talks in the book about how she doesn't know enough and how she wants to know more. And
you sound like you liked it.
I really liked it. I would do a 4, 6, 7.
Wow.
Like, it's just
great.
They managed to deal with these sort of, I don't want to call them heavy topics, but serious topics, like real topics that are especially applicable to right now. And they do it in a way that it's easy for you to do, which I just think is yeah. I appreciate that.
Put it on my list.
I would suggest it. I think it's really good, and I think it's a really great perspective, and I really liked it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my god. He is.
Why are you looking in the camera?
But my last 5-star review book was by none other than Ellen Hildebrand. And if you've been following
Shocking.
for a while, you know that I'm hot for Ellen Hildebrand.
You are hot for Ellen
I love her. I've read almost every single thing she's written. I think I have 4 or 5 books that I have not read yet. Her newest book, though, might be my favorite. And it is called 28 Summers, and it is a book that follows the characters Mallory and Jake, but also their friends and family through 28 summers of their lives.
Oh God.
Mallory is the sister of Jake's best friend. They kind of meet up on the island of Nantucket, where most of Ellen's books are set, and they have a fling. They're both single at the time. And they have such a great time together that they make it a pact that every single Labor Day they will spend together on the island of Nantucket.
Just the 2 of them?
Just the 2 of them.
Stop!
There's a very famous movie called Same Time Next Year, and it talks about this couple who meets the same time every single year, and they have their fling, and what happens outside of that happens.
Wait.
No matter what.
But they're fucking.
They're fucking.
Oh, but what if they're in relationships?
Doesn't matter. The only time they communicate throughout the year is if someone is getting married or having a baby.
Okay.
And
wait, what?
Yes. They don't text, they don't call, they don't write the entire year unless one of those things happens. Well, Mallory's brother, who is Jake's best friend, gets married 4 or 5 times over the course of this novel. And so he's having all these weddings. So they kind of see each other a couple times a year on some of the years. But Jake has an eternal girlfriend named Ursula who you just love to hate. Her name is Ursula.
That's actually kind of... Okay, Ellen.
Mallory, the main female character, she has relationships as well. And she ends up having a child with someone else. But it doesn't matter. Same time next year, every single Labor Day, they meet up. And the book kind of starts out really sad, so it gives you an understanding of what's to come. And it's Mallory's son calling Jake to say, my mom has cancer and she's on hospice. You need to come now. Oh my God, I cried. Not the whole book, but the end I did.
Okay, so she gonna die.
Right, so you know you're gonna cry. You know what's gonna come, but you just want to root for these people so much. They need to be together. They need to be together, and they're not. And it's so hard to read it because you're reading about these awful relationships that Mallory's having, or you're reading about Jake living with Ursula. I mean, her name is Ursula. It's really good. It's really entertaining, but also it pulls at your heartstrings. You're rooting for them the whole time. It's a sad story. Ellen talked about how when she wrote it, she cried, and it's another book that I read in a day and a half because I just can't put her books down.
Did you hug your dog after you cried?
No, I mean, I cried. It was steady stream. I didn't sob, but then I was oh my god, like what am I gonna do now?
Okay, bro, you're kind of heavy. You're gonna take them back?
Yeah, I'm gonna put them on the ground. It has a lot of happy moments, and one of my favorite things about it was that so much of the book was set in my neighborhood, Roland Park. Like, the neighborhood that is literally across the street from me.
Wait, you're kidding?
I swear to God.
Like Roland Park, Maryland,
because Ellen went to Hopkins. She talks about a lot of places that would have been popular during that time. And so when she names these streets or these bars or churches, I can visualize because I know where the stuff is. You're gonna love it.
That's so funny. I had no idea.
She talks a lot about Roland Park.
Oh.
You're gonna like it.
How many books does she put out a year?
At least 2.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
she's cranking through them. And she hand writes her books, you guys. I just find her fascinating. I want to go hang out with her for a weekend, which is why I've applied to be on the wait list for the Nantucket winter weekend with her, but I don't think I'll get picked.
But
like, I put it as RSVP too, because...
Good. Because I would go.
Are
you kidding?
So.
Are you kidding?
I hope so.
No, I will say I have read one of Ellen Hildebrand's book, 2, 3.
You've read her whole winter series.
Have I?
That's 3. Winter
I don't
Street.
know. I need to go to Nantucket. That's all I can tell you.
You're gonna want to live on Nantucket, and then you're gonna look at the Airbnbs and be like, bitch, I can't afford it.
Absolutely not. I mean, they talk about that in the books. Nobody can afford it. The book that I'm currently reading is called Saint X by Alexis Shaitkin. I am maybe only, I think I'm under 100 pages in, or maybe just around 100. I like it so far.
I'm so happy.
So
I saw it on a lot of lists.
It's on a lot of lists. So it's based around a very similar story to like Natalie Holloway. So a family goes to a vacation on St. X, the island. It's like St. Lucia-y, kind of down there.
Is that a real island?
I don't know. I don't think so. Okay. I've never heard of it. Maybe it is. But they also talk about how like a lot of people don't know about it. Anyway, her family's on vacation. During the week that they're on vacation, they disappear. She's 18 years old. Her sister is very young. Maybe like 5, I think, when she disappears.
The whole family disappears?
No. Just the sister.
Okay.
The sister disappears. The other sister is 5-ish. And it just sort of discusses how that disappearance and murder, they find her dead. Like, it's not, I don't think that's a spoiler alert. Like, it happens in the first, like, 30 pages. But it talks about how it affects, like, the family dynamic, how it affects the island, like, the economics of the island, the people that are suspects in her murder, and also, but it follows the little sister. So her name in the beginning is Claire. She ends up going by her middle name, which is Emily, but it follows her. So it follows her memories, but it also, there are chapters that are told from the perspective of the suspects in her murder. There are chapters that are told from the perspective of the girl that was murdered, and it also intersplices statements from people that were interviewed by police as witnesses.
Okay.
So it's very interesting because it has a lot of different perspectives, a lot of different characters that you sort of have to keep in mind while you're reading it. But so I still have a ton of it to read, but I'm very excited about it. And it's one of those things where it is in my purse. I take it with me to work. I really like it. I would recommend it. At this point, it's early in the book still, so I hesitate to give it a rating, but I think we're hovering right at like a 3.754.
Okay.
Like I think there is potential, but like some of the other books that I've read have been good books, and then at the end they like tank. So
2.5.
2.5. So I hesitate to give it like a really high ranking, but it's interesting. I have always been very interested. I think like a lot of people captivated by the disappearance and unexplained murders of women, which occur at higher rates than anyone else.
Right, like, I still need to know what happened to Jean Benet, okay?
Yes.
I'm going to put that on my list.
I would put it on your list. I would recommend reading it. It's very interesting.
I like that.
Yeah. What are you reading now?
We really like thrillers.
I typically don't. It's funny because I don't even find myself, like, I wouldn't describe myself as a murder mystery thriller reader. But when you look at, but I will say, there are a lot of deaths in all the books I read.
That's true. My therapist always asks me what I'm reading, and it, without fail, is usually some kind of thriller or murder mystery. And she was like, you trauma patients, y'all do this. actively seek out books and TV shows like that about it. It's the thought of being so knowledgeable that should anything happen or happen again, you are so prepared and aware that you would be able to prevent it. It's really fucked up, but it is a reason that I am absolutely obsessed with Dateline. But the book I'm reading now is nothing like that. And I will say, these books that I've talked about today, I have not read them back to back to back. I like to break up my books with reading like a lighthearted book, and then a heavier book, and then a lighthearted book, and then a heavier book. Otherwise, I'll just be sad or really like overthinking my entire life.
Yes, I become very emotionally invested in books. Like, I am in the book when I'm reading it.
You saw me cry over a book that I don't even have in front of me.
Yeah, no, I'm in the book. Like, it's happening to me when I'm reading the book. So, yes, definitely, I am very affected.
So I have to break it up. But the one I'm reading now is called The Honey Don't Listen. It's by Christina Lauren, which, fun fact, I think this is super fun. I've read a few books by what you think is her, but it's actually two. It's two friends that
Christina and Lauren
that co-write the book at the same time together.
Wow, how do you do that?
I'm only like 30 pages in right now. I really like their writing. It's not gonna win a Pulitzer Prize, but it's gonna entertain you.
Yes.
And sometimes you just need that. Your brain needs the break. You just need a page turner that's like, and it makes you feel good. Like, I finished this book so quickly. Look at me. It reminds me right now very much of Chip and Joanna Gaines, because it is following a husband and wife couple. Their names are Rusty and Melissa, and they had like a home renovation store and then got picked up for a series, and now they're writing books about their marriage, and they're getting ready to get their own private show on like HGTV, and it follows them and how like maybe everything you see on screen isn't what it seems, because Rusty be cheating on Melissa.
Ooh.
And Melissa hates that mofo.
Rusty.
Yes. It starts out with a police report, so you know it's gonna be good.
Oh, that is good. That's an excellent start.
So I'm only 30 pages in. I know the premise of the book, but I'm excited to keep reading it, and it's already got my interest. Like, I'm already thinking to myself, like,
when can I read it?
Right, like, I'm glad I don't have anything to do later because I can read my book.
Yeah.
Their books are just really kind of interesting. It's like, how do you cohesively tie both of your brains together to form a really good story?
I don't know how. I don't know.
And like, is it chapter by chapter? Do you take one chapter, I take another?
I can't imagine, because we do things together, but
very differently.
I don't think we could write a book together. I don't think I read enough that's funny.
Yeah, they're like pleasure reads.
Because I like funny.
Honeymooners was one that made me laugh. And I remember really loving that one as like a year-end favorite last year, because I don't laugh when I read.
Yeah.
I'm usually like,
uh-huh.
You killed who? He did what?
Wait, what was the who? What? Who?
Yeah. So, yeah, that's what I'm reading.
That's it.
That was long, I think.
We would love to know what you're reading.
Yeah,
please comment down below with what you're reading, or really anything else. We love reading the comments in general.
Yep, even if you want to shit talk our makeup.
Or anything else. Comment, like, and subscribe. Share with your friends.
Make sure you ring the bell for notifications so that when we post a new video, which is usually twice a week, you're notified.
You're the first one to know.
You're the first one. You could be first comment.
First comment! Find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, almost anywhere you can hear a podcast. If you have ideas for episodes of the podcast or videos, please leave them down below as well. We are actively making new content, and we could use the help. Watch our last video.
Watch our next video.
Watch our next video. Watch all the videos.
And in case you didn't know, there are approximately 187 of them.
Is that really the number?
Yes.
Oh.
Because I looked it up the other day and I was like, Mike, guess how many videos we filmed?
That's a lot.
A lot. That's days of your life. Weeks, perhaps, because we talk a lot.
We do talk a lot. Okay, that's it. Love you. Bye.
You know I hate when you do that. I just want to be prepared. That's all. I don't want to be doing this. Which is often what I look like.
But the thing is you're already doing that. You're just trying to snap out of it. Okay, that's it. Thanks, bye.
It's funny, but I feel like it comes across as rude. No. Like, we don't care about you.
We don't. Okay, go.
That's how we end it. That's it. It's over.